Meanwhile, this week, there were some pretty big developments on the connection between Donald Trump and Russia this week, not the least of which is that Donald Trump really apparently did not want any record of what he said, what he and Vladimir Putin talked about when they met.
Well, that's true. And I mean, I think we knew that sort of. I mean, we knew that he had a secret meeting, or shouldn't say secret, a private meeting with Putin in Helsinki that lasted for 2 hours, and then he came out and acted like a whipped dog in front of the international press. So it was a very clear that something strange had gone on in there, and we have no idea. And then we've been told by his top national security advisors, like Dan Coats, that they don't have any idea what it was said. The Russians do know what was said, but none of the Americans do. But then it turned out that he'd been doing this for a while, that the other meetings, the earlier one, there was one in Hamburg at the G20, where he apparently told the interpreter not to talk to any of his national security people, and he also requested the notes and tore up the notes from the meeting, or took them anyway. These were things we didn't know, and we also didn't know how much this was bothering members of the national security establishment. Going, we don't really have a clue what he's talking about in there, and I think those of us who've been following this story are rightfully suspicious, considering Trump's behavior.
Right.
But that wasn't the only big story. There was another big story that came out this week, which was that Trump had been, apparently the FBI had opened up a counterintelligence investigation targeting the president after the Jim Comey firing. And I think we all sort of assumed maybe that had been going on before. And of course it was implicitly, because they were investigating the campaign, and there was a counterintelligence investigation going on around Russian interference in the campaign. But apparently it was after Comey was fired that the FBI actually said, look, we got to look at the president. There is something going on. And it wasn't just Comey. It was also the meeting with the Russian ambassador the next day, in which he said, I got rid of that nutcase, and it took the pressure off Russia. And then he just blurted out a bunch of highly, important, classified information. So all of that stuff was going on. And then there's another story that Trump has been saying over and over again, that he wants to withdraw from NATO, which is one of Vladimir Putin's, maybe the primary
wish list.
Goal, primary at the top of Vladimir Putin's wish list. So there's been a lot going on. Oh, and then Mueller dropped a big filing on Manafort, showing all kinds of different. It indicates that a lot of it was redacted. That there are a bunch of different investigations going on that we don't know about. So. Right,
and all of which is it's pretty amazing. And we should say about the counterintelligence investigation, unlike a criminal investigation, you don't really bring these things to a resolution, right? I mean, it's possible historians will write a book about it at some point, but they don't come out and press charges necessarily.
Right.
I mean, this is... it's almost like some form of, low-level warfare in a way. And for all we know, even though the investigation officially, found nothing, for all we know, there are still elements in the FBI that perceive Donald Trump as some form of either witting or unwitting asset to a foreign power. I mean, that's pretty stunning stuff. And I don't know that we'll ever know, at least contemporaneously, if we'll ever know the answer to that question, Heather. I mean, we may get assessments, 5-10 years down the road when people write those books, but right now it's a little bit tricky to tell.
Yep.
And I guess, I guess we're just going to have to wait. I'm hesitant to say it feels like things are coming to a head, because I feel like we've said that 100 times. I feel like every week we convene and we're like, whoa, this week's been crazy and it's coming to a head. And then in fact, the week turns out to be crazy and it does not come to a head. Yet it continues to build. But fortunately, we will be talking again next week, and so we will dip in and have maybe a better sense of where Donald Trump is at. But as always, Heather, I appreciate the time.